One other piece of news, Zach, for the Eagles as teams try to fill their potential openings in the front office.
Yeah, the Washington Commanders requested an interview with Alec Halby. The Eagles' assistant general manager has been with the organization for 16 years. Came up on the data analytics side. His role has since increased into more player evaluation, and the Eagles have two assistant general managers, John Ferrari and Alec Halby. And for the way we think of the general manager position, Alec handles more of those responsibilities. John Ferrari deals more with kind of like the administrative component of it, right? So the Eagles have tried to build this pipeline in their front office, and you know that because they've lost talented people. Ian Cunningham, who's now the Bears assistant GM, formerly with the Eagles, he's on the interview circuit this offseason. Halby's the number 2 guy with the Eagles, and so that's one to pay attention to for a few reasons. First off, he's talented and respected in the building. He has a long track record. He's been somewhat of a polarizing figure, and that's definitely fair to say. He's worked with 4 different head coaches in different capacities. But where I say he's been linked to Washington for a few weeks now, frankly, because Josh Harris is the controlling owner there, has connections to the Eagles, has connections to Harvard. Right now, the one thing that I will add to this is that the big news for Washington today is they hired Bob Myers and Rick Spielman to help oversee this search.
2 guys competing to pull a Dick Cheney and get the job themselves, probably.
I mean, it'd be smart to hire Bob Myers. That guy's incredible. I mean, if I'm serious, I can send you. I have
file. I could send you. I got a whole file of podcasts that Bob Myers has been on. Yes, blow you away.
Not just a file of podcasts. He has his own podcast on leadership. I would really recommend the Bob Iger episode. Anyways, we don't have to go down that path here. What I was saying is that this could change the search from like maybe organizations that Josh Harris knows or has connections with, or relationships that he might have, because he's not overseeing the search. It's now Bob Myers and Rick Spielman overseeing the search. That's the only point I was going to make. That is kind of an odd pair. Yeah. I could say this for Alec Halby. I think from what I've heard, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this. He's really grown, especially in these past few years, perhaps. We had an article a few years ago that detailed some of the front office dynamics, and obviously there's change in the front office. There's been change in the coaching staff and some of the people in the building there. But certainly since then, he's become the assistant general manager. His role has increased during that time, and I can't imagine this will be the last interview he has.
Yeah, I would also say that we wrote that article, but also like the position that he was in at that time. Mm-hmm. When you are like running the analytics
That's what I'm saying.
group, it is a combative thing by nature, probably, right? When you're trying to work with like football guys mm-hmm. by nature. And so the fact that the Eagles like continue to promote him and he has been more mm-hmm. on the football side probably says a lot of that. And my understanding is that Howie does a very good job with the people who are at that level of like opening the door a little bit to some of the like GM decision making things that would not, we wouldn't see.
Yeah,
that are beyond like who to draft and who to sign.
And the thing I'll say about Alec is it's similar to what I've said about like Denard Wilson as a potential defensive coordinator. When I talk about Denard Wilson, look at the different people that he's been exposed to, different styles, to different personalities, right? So when he worked in that Greg Williams, Jim Schwartz type scheme, then he worked in the Jonathan Gannon one. Now he's in Baltimore, right? So you have like different influences, kind of building your philosophy. So Alec Halby, even though he's worked only in the Eagles building, the different head coaches he's been exposed to would in theory give him perspective that maybe some other people don't have, and these are like awfully successful coaches. Andy Reid might be the best coach in the NFL. And he was here, I believe Alec was here from like 09, 2010. So he saw that last run that Andy Reid's teams had before it fell apart in 11 and 12. And then Chip, he certainly saw, a different way of doing this, right? And different philosophies, some of which still remain from an organizational perspective. And then Doug, where they won a Super Bowl, and now Sirianni. And such a big part of being a GM in today's football is how you interact with the head coach and the owner.
Yes.
And so being able to interact with the owner, and Alec Halby has experience dealing with the ownership level, but then that's why I bring up the different head coaches. Having exposure to different styles of head coach, different personalities as head coach would theoretically be beneficial compared to if you're interviewing a candidate who's kind of only worked for the same head coach or has kind of followed that person around.